Imagine waking up, pouring your morning coffee, and walking over to your desk only to realize your laptop has already finished the project you were stressing about last night.
That sounds pretty wild.
It really does. I mean, the code is written, the errors are fixed, and the application is ready to deploy, all while you were completely unconscious. Today, that is actually no longer a science fiction scenario.
It is happening right now.
Welcome to episode 514 of AI Brief. I am your host, Amin, and I am joined by my co-host, Leah. Our mission today is to break down the sheer scale of the developments that have completely reshaped the technology market over the last 24 hours.
There is a lot to cover.
So much. Google's Sundar Pichai just made a striking claim, saying the artificial intelligence we rely on today is going to look as primitive as a flip phone in just 3 years. To show you why he's right, we are unpacking OpenAI's massive push to make their Codex assistant work autonomously while you sleep.
Which is just a huge leap forward.
Absolutely. Then we'll examine how California is stepping in to aggressively protect workers as software takes over major economic sectors. Following that, we have a breakdown of the broader market, including SpaceX's historic initial public offering, and we'll close with a rundown of the top trending tools you can deploy today.
You know, we are absolutely witnessing a massive shift in the industry right now. The entire narrative is decisively moving away from artificial intelligence, acting as just a simple reactive chatbot. We are shifting toward technology that operates as an autonomous agent and a primary economic force in its own right. The rundown we are looking at today perfectly captures that exact inflection point.
So let's jump straight into the first major update. OpenAI dropping a massive wave of upgrades to its Codex agentic assistant. They are fundamentally changing how you interact with the system by introducing 4 major features.
Starting with app shots, right?
Correct. AppShots is wild. It allows Mac users to attach any open application window directly to a Codex thread. By executing a simple command press on your keyboard, the system grabs the visual screenshot, the underlying text, and the structural content of whatever you're working on.
It just pulls it all seamlessly into the context window.
Exactly.
Think about how you normally interact with these tools. You usually have to manually copy and paste your work into a chat window. But AppShots essentially acts like a digital camera that takes a snapshot of your entire desk. It understands everything written on your papers, comprehends the layout, and instantly knows exactly what you were working on without you having to explain a single thing.
And that context is vital for the second feature, which is goal mode. This is now available across the Codex application, your integrated development environment extension, which is basically the digital workbench where software engineers write code and the command line interface.
The text-based terminal.
Right. Goal mode lets you assign the system a specific objective, and the agent will just work independently toward that goal for hours or, even days at a time.
Mechanically, this shifts the whole paradigm from providing a prompt to actually delegating an assignment. You are no longer holding the system's hand through every single step. You give it the destination, and it figures out the roadmap.
Spot on. Which brings us to the third feature, an advanced annotation mode where users can directly describe to the assistant what they want changed on a web page and see the results previewed instantly. But the final feature is the one that really changes the game.
The locked computer feature.
Yes. Locked computer use allows the software to run desktop applications via a second device, even when your Mac is locked and the screen is turned completely off. Think of this mechanism like having a tireless intern grinding away at your desk overnight, executing complex tasks while your laptop is shut and you are fast asleep.
Well, and the strategic reasoning behind this rollout is crucial for you to understand. OpenAI is making a massive, calculated bet here. By embedding the assistant so deeply into the operating system and giving it these hands-off, autonomous capabilities, they are aggressively trying to close the capability gap they currently have with Anthropic.
To maintain their lead.
Exactly. This product velocity is designed entirely to maintain their competitive edge over rivals like xAI and Google.
So OpenAI is essentially giving us tireless digital interns that work while we sleep. But that immediately begs the question, if the software is doing the work, what happens to the human worker? That brings us to our second update.
This one is pretty significant.
It really is. California Governor Gavin Newsom has just signed an executive order directly aimed at protecting workers from AI-driven job loss. And the timing here is incredibly stark.
Just one day after the Meta news.
Literally one day. He signed it right after Meta announced they were laying off 8,000 employees, specifically to offset their massive infrastructure investments. When you look at the broader landscape, 70,000 jobs have already vanished in 2026 alone.
It is a sobering number.
Truly. So help us break down the mechanics of this. How does a state government actually mandate economic protections against software automation?
The executive order mandates state agencies to explore a completely new framework of economic policies. They're directed to research modernized severance standards and mandatory stock compensation. But the most significant mechanics involve exploring worker ownership models and the concept of universal basic capital.
Universal basic capital. How is that different from universal basic income?
Instead of just receiving a monthly check, like with basic income, universal basic capital implies that citizens would actually own a financial stake in the infrastructure generating the wealth.
Oh, wow. I imagine the technology sector is watching this closely, but what does the actual timeline look like for implementing these protections?
They have established an exceptionally aggressive timeline. Within 90 days, the state will launch a public dashboard designed to actively track the impact of the technology on jobs.
Only 90 days to spin that up.
Yes, very fast. And within 180 days, agencies are required to pitch specific updates to the WARN Act. For context, the WARN Act is the labor law that requires companies to provide advance notice of mass layoffs. The goal is to mandate much faster alerts for impending corporate downsizing.
That makes a lot of sense.
And finally, there is a hard deadline of October 15th for the state to review how labor unions are negotiating these adoptions. By that same date, they must update workforce training programs and explore mechanisms for redirecting corporate revenue toward public benefit funds.
California is such a massive player in this space.
Huge. They house 33 of the world's top 50 artificial intelligence companies, making the state the pivotal economic bellwether for how the global economy will regulate this transition.
It is just wild watching an entire state government rewrite its labor infrastructure in real time. But let's pivot to the broader market, because the financial scale we are seeing today is simply unprecedented. I will hand the floor over to my co-host to guide you through the remaining headlines hitting the wire.
We have 6 major developments moving the market today. First, OpenAI has fundamentally altered the presentation workflow. You can now create, update, and polish entire PowerPoint slide decks directly within the ChatGPT interface.
That sounds incredibly useful.
It really is. What makes this mechanically significant is the elimination of the clipboard. The slides remain fully editable natively in PowerPoint, meaning you can continue iterating using standard Microsoft tools without any clunky copy-pasting required. This feature is currently rolling out in beta.
Nice. What is the second update?
Second, Elon Musk's space and AI conglomerate, SpaceX, officially filed its S-1 prospectus. And S-1 is the foundational document a company files to open its financial books to the public, paving the way for what will be the largest initial public offering in history.
The scale of this has to be massive.
The internal numbers operate on a staggering scale. SpaceX posted $18.7 billion in revenue for the year 2025. However, against that revenue, they recorded a net loss of $4.9 billion. Despite those losses, they are aiming to raise $80 billion at a $1.7 trillion valuation.
Wait, hold on. They recorded nearly $5 billion in net losses last year, but they are commanding a $1.7 trillion valuation on the public markets. How does the financial math on that actually work?
The market is entirely pricing in a future monopoly. Investors are not looking at the current burn rate. They are betting on SpaceX becoming the absolute foundational infrastructure for both global communications and autonomous systems. To put that into perspective, that valuation is roughly 3 times the size of Saudi Aramco's record-setting listing back in 2019.
That is just unbelievable.
Third, shifting to the private markets, a stealth startup called Hark, founded by serial entrepreneur Brett Adcock, just raised $700 million at a $6 billion post-money valuation. A post-money valuation simply means what the company is worth immediately after the investment cash hits their bank account. Hark is building a personal assistant designed to function as a universal interface to the digital world. The system is built to listen, see, and act autonomously.
Brett Adcock just convinced investors to hand over $700 million for a company that technically does not even exist in the public eye yet. That really highlights the immense level of fear of missing out driving these capital allocations.
Absolutely. What sets Hark apart mechanically is that they're utilizing native models, specialized software, and proprietary hardware. Rather than piecing together existing text generators, their system processes audio and visual inputs natively. They expect their first multimodal models to begin shipping this summer, pitching it as the most advanced personal intelligence system in the world.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one.
Fourth, Anthropic is reportedly in active talks to utilize Microsoft's purpose-built Maya chips. This follows their previous infrastructure deal securing Google's tensor processing units and Amazon's Trainium chips.
Why would Anthropic spread their computing needs across 3 entirely different cloud providers instead of just locking into one ecosystem?
It was a pure leverage play. By diversifying their silicon dependencies across Google, Amazon, and now Microsoft, they prevent themselves from being held hostage by any single supplier. If one provider raises compute prices, Anthropic can seamlessly shift their workloads to another provider's infrastructure.
Very smart.
Fifth, the agentic startup Manus is exploring strategic financial options, including potentially raising $1 billion in fresh capital. This comes as they attempt to comply with an order from the Chinese government requiring them to fully unwind their $2 billion acquisition by Meta.
That sounds incredibly complicated.
Mechanically, unwinding an acquisition of that size is incredibly complex. It requires separating deeply integrated data pipelines, employee contracts, and software architectures that have already been merged.
Wow. And the final update?
Finally, Microsoft and EY announced a massive $1 billion partnership. This deal pairs Microsoft engineers directly with EY's 400,000 global consultants. The objective is to dramatically accelerate the implementation of complex automation projects for their enterprise clients worldwide.
The sheer scale of capital pulling toward these autonomous tools is insane. Between the $1.7 trillion for SpaceX and Hark's massive raise while still in stealth, the market is moving incredibly fast.
It really is unprecedented.
So let's talk about what you can actually use today to keep up. We have 7 trending AI tools hitting the market, and we will break down exactly how you can deploy them for your workflow.
Let's run through them.
First is Genpire. The core use case here is taking rough, early-stage ideas and turning them into actual, tangible products. Instead of just drafting a product description, it structures the actual development architecture for you.
That is a huge time saver.
Definitely. Second is Vivago. This tool is designed specifically for generating consistently compelling video content. It mechanically solves the persistent problem of visual continuity, preventing the flickering and morphing artifacts that usually plague generated video.
Which has been a major pain point.
Always. Third, we have Xmergo. If you are dealing with unstructured or messy data sets, think raw text files or disorganized spreadsheets, Xmergo is built to ingest that unformatted information and automatically turn it into highly reliable, clean data dashboards.
I can see a lot of data analysts loving that one.
For sure. Fourth is ChartCool. This tool allows you to instantly transform complex enterprise data into highly professional visual charts. You can essentially generate board-ready visualizations without needing a dedicated team member to build the graphs manually.
That is incredibly practical.
Fifth is NanoClaw. This serves as a secure, lightweight, open-source alternative to the existing OpenClaw framework. A framework is essentially the underlying digital plumbing developers use to build applications, and NanoClaw provides a much more agile deployment option for smaller engineering teams.
Moving on to the legal sector.
Yes. Sixth is Contract Intelligence. These are new, highly specialized agents developed by Harvey. They are specifically designed to execute the complete first pass on inbound legal contracts. Mechanically, it reads the document, flags anomalous clauses, and automates the initial review process before a human lawyer ever has to look at it.
Which could save law firms thousands of hours.
Without a doubt. Finally, we have Anti-Gravity. This serves as Google's next-generation agentic development platform, deeply integrating autonomous coding capabilities directly into the software engineering workflow.
You know, the clear trend line across every single one of these releases is deep functional specialization. We have completely moved past the era of generic text generation. The market is now deploying robust workflows tailored specifically for negotiating complex legal contracts, visualizing dense enterprise data, and executing full-scale product development from end to end. The technology has firmly entered the execution phase.
Execution is definitely the word for it. As we wrap up today's deep dive, there is a striking contrast to consider from everything we have covered.
There really is.
We are rapidly approaching the timeline of Sundar Pichai's prediction, where the technology we use today will look as primitive as a flip phone. Yet, simultaneously, entire state governments are scrambling to rewrite their foundational labor laws just to catch up with the technology we already have running on our desks right now.
It is a massive disconnect.
It truly is. I invite you to think about the broader implications of that exact gap. What exactly happens to the structure of the modern economy when tools like Codex are working autonomously overnight for everyone, accelerating the pace of output while we are still figuring out the rules? Thank you for listening. If you found this breakdown valuable, we encourage you to follow and share the podcast. See you in the next episode.
See you in the next episode.